On paper, everything looks fine. Two adults, both educated, both working full-time, both earning steady paychecks. Together, their household income clears 6 figures. This is a level of income many people associate with having made it. Stability, comfort, the point where financial stress is supposed to fade into the background. And yet, for millions of households, that's not what happens. Instead, there's constant tension. There's anxiety around money despite strong earnings. Emergency expenses feel disruptive instead of manageable. Saving feels slower than it should. Time feels scarce. Energy feels depleted. And despite working harder and longer than previous generations, financial security still feels fragile. This disconnect raises an uncomfortable question. How can households earning more money than ever before feel less secure than households that earned far less just a few decades ago? How can people who did everything they were told to do, went to school, built careers, combined incomes, bought homes, and followed the rules, still feel like they are barely holding things together? The answer is not hidden in budgeting tricks, coffee purchases, or personal discipline. The answer is structural. And once it becomes visible, it is very difficult to unsee. For decades, society has promoted a simple idea. 2 incomes are better than 1. More income should mean more security. More income should mean more options. More income should mean more freedom. The math appears obvious. If 1 income can support a household, then 2 incomes should create surplus, extra savings, investments, flexibility. But what actually happened looks very different. For many families, the second income did not create margin. It eliminated it. And not because people suddenly became irresponsible, but because the entire economic system quietly adjusted to absorb that extra money. To understand how this happened, it helps to look backward. For much of the 20th century, the typical middle-class household relied on 1 primary income. 1 adult worked outside the home, while the other handled domestic responsibilities. Childcare, meals, scheduling, household management, and unpaid labor were all handled within the home. This arrangement was not perfect, and it came with trade-offs, especially for women. But financially, it had an important characteristic that often goes unnoticed. It left unused earning capacity. If the primary earner lost their job, became sick, or faced an interruption, the second adult could enter the workforce. That potential income was not being used. It was waiting. It functioned as a buffer, a reserve, a form of insurance. It provided flexibility. It gave households the ability to absorb shocks without immediate collapse. Today, that reserve is gone. In most households, both incomes are already in use. 2 incomes are no longer optional. They are required just to access what used to be considered a normal middle-class life. Housing, childcare, healthcare, transportation, education, and insurance are now priced assuming that both adults are working. The backup plan has become the default operating mode. And once the backup plan is already in use, there is nothing left to activate when something goes wrong. On the surface, incomes have risen, adjusted for inflation. Households today earn more than households did decades ago. But income alone does not determine financial health. Costs matter more. And the costs that define middle-class life have grown far faster than wages. Housing prices have surged relative to income. Healthcare costs have exploded. Childcare has become one of the largest expenses many families face. Education costs have climbed steadily for decades. Transportation costs have increased. Insurance costs have increased. The price of stability itself has gone up. As these costs rose, the extra income from a second worker did not go into savings. It did not create financial breathing room. It went into maintaining access, maintaining housing, maintaining childcare, maintaining employment itself. The second income became necessary just to stay in place. A second income often looks powerful on paper, but once it enters a household, it begins to shrink almost immediately. Taxes take a larger share because that income stacks on top of existing earnings. The marginal tax rate is higher. Payroll taxes apply again. State and local taxes apply again. What looks like a large paycheck becomes noticeably smaller after deductions. Then come the cost of working. Commuting requires fuel, maintenance, insurance, and often a second vehicle. Professional work requires clothing, meals away from home, and time-related expenses. When both adults work full-time, time becomes scarce. Scarcity leads to spending. Convenience replaces efficiency. Prepared food replaces home cooking. Services replace unpaid labor. Delivery replaces planning. These expenses are rarely viewed as luxuries. They are coping mechanisms. If children are involved, childcare becomes unavoidable. In many areas, childcare rivals or exceeds housing costs. It is not optional. It is not discretionary. It exists purely because both adults must work to sustain the household. When these costs are accounted for, the net contribution of the second income often shrinks dramatically. In some cases, it approaches zero. In others, it becomes negative. And yet, households make long-term decisions based on the gross number. They qualify for mortgages using both incomes. They commit to fixed expenses sized for 2 paychecks. They structure their entire financial life around the assumption that both incomes will continue uninterrupted for decades. That assumption is where fragility begins. The most dangerous financial position is not low income. It is high fixed expenses. When a household income is locked into non-negotiable monthly obligations, flexibility disappears. Mortgage payments, car loans, insurance premiums, childcare contracts, student loans, and other fixed costs leave little room to maneuver. As long as both incomes continue, everything appears stable. Bills get paid. Life moves forward. But life rarely cooperates indefinitely. Jobs are lost. People get sick. Burnout happens. Parents age. Children need extra care. Industries change. Companies downsize. When even one income pauses, the entire structure comes under stress. And because fixed costs were built for 2 incomes, there is very little room to adjust quickly. Savings, if they exist, are often thin. Selling assets takes time. Cutting fixed costs is slow and painful. This is why households with strong incomes can still feel like they are one unexpected event away from crisis. As dual-income households became common, the market adapted. When buyers have more money, sellers raise prices. Homes did not become more affordable because families had 2 incomes. They became more expensive. School districts tied to property taxes became more competitive. Access to quality education became embedded in housing costs. The result was a silent escalation, an arms race where everyone spent more just to maintain the same position. 2 incomes did not buy luxury for most families. They bought entry into the same neighborhoods, the same schools, the same baseline standard of living that once required far less. Once 2 incomes became normal, 1 income became insufficient. Not because 1 income could not support a household, but because prices had adjusted upward to assume 2. Financial health depends on slack. Slack is the ability to absorb shocks without breaking. It is excess capacity. It is margin. It is what separates resilience from collapse. In many modern households, slack has disappeared. Savings rates are low. Time is scarce. Energy is depleted. Every dollar is assigned a purpose before it arrives. This creates a constant low-level stress. Households are not poor, but they are exposed. This exposure creates a psychological trap. Because the income number looks high, people feel like they should be doing better. When they are not, the assumption becomes personal failure. People blame themselves for not budgeting well enough, not optimizing enough, not working hard enough. But the structure itself leaves little room for success as it is currently designed. Many financially stressed households are not overspending on luxury. They are spending on necessities that have become disproportionately expensive. Housing, healthcare, education, childcare, and transportation are not optional. They are the cost of participating in modern society. The issue is not a lack of discipline. It is that the system rewards maximum utilization and punishes flexibility. There is another way to think about this. It does not require abandoning a second income. It does not require extreme deprivation. It requires a different foundation. The idea is simple. Build fixed expenses so they can be supported by 1 income. This does not mean only one person must work. It means a household is not dependent on both incomes to survive. When fixed costs fit, within one income, the second income becomes surplus instead of necessity. That surplus creates options. It creates breathing room. It allows households to respond to life rather than react to it. Job loss becomes manageable instead of catastrophic. Burnout can be addressed without panic. Health issues do not immediately threaten housing stability. Career risks become possible. Savings grow faster. Stress decreases. This approach feels countercultural because modern culture encourages households to spend at the edge of their earning capacity. Banks approve large loans. Advertising normalizes upgrades. Social comparison rewards visible success. Choosing not to maximize spending can feel like falling behind, even when it is strategically sound. There's constant pressure to build a life that requires continuous output from both adults indefinitely. Resisting that pressure requires restraint. But restraint is not weakness. It is leverage. When a household does not need every dollar it earns, it gains power. Power to choose. Power to pause. Power to adapt. Margin compounds. When a second income is not consumed by fixed costs, it can be directed toward emergency savings, retirement accounts, investments, and debt elimination. Over time, those assets begin to generate income of their own. This is how households regain real security. Not by earning more forever, but by needing less. Eventually, the household achieves what two incomes were supposed to provide in the first place. Choice, the ability to make decisions based on values rather than necessity. The ability to prioritize health, relationships, and long-term stability without risking collapse. Wealth is often confused with income, but income is fragile. It depends on continued performance, continued employment, continued health. Flexibility is durable. Flexibility allows families to absorb shocks, change direction, and survive disruptions without losing everything. Earlier generations often had less income but more flexibility. Modern households often have more income but far less. This conversation is not about whether both partners should work. It is about whether a household is built on assumptions or resilience. Is every dollar already spoken for, or is there space to breathe? Because earning power alone cannot protect a household if all of it is committed, and no amount of income can compensate for a system with zero margin. The modern two-income household did not fail because people made bad choices. It failed because the definition of enough quietly shifted. Understanding that changes everything. Once the trap becomes visible, it becomes possible to step around it. Not by endlessly increasing income, not by optimizing every expense, but by rebuilding margin, flexibility, and control. That is where real financial security begins. If this changed the way you think about money, work, or security, that's the point. Most financial stress isn't about effort. It's about structure. Once you see the system clearly, you can start making decisions that actually protect your time, energy, and future. If you found this useful, take a moment to like the video. Subscribe if you want more videos like this, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching.